Hey good people, and welcome back to the channel. Since I started this channel, I posted a few unpopular opinions as it relates to the movie Soul Food. Well, in this video, I'll be going back to the movie Soul Food to share yet another unpopular opinion as it relates to Sister Terry. And I must say that this video was inspired by the viral post on the Shade Room, where a case was made as to why Terry deserves an apology. Well folks, I think Terry does not deserve an apology, and I will address each point made on the post to prove my argument. Now my arguments may ruffle some feathers, but if there's one thing that you should know about me, it's that I welcome all the smoke. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. Number 1. The whole family roast her the entire movie for being smart, successful, including Big Momma. Well, I have no problem with Terry getting roasted. Throughout this entire movie, Terry had an attitude with nearly every character except Maxine's kids and Big Momma. Terry enjoyed belittling her family members, and she always threw anything that she ever did for them back in their faces. So yes, Terry was smart and successful, but since when did those two qualities offset any negative qualities that a person may have? I mean, one could argue that Charles from the movie The Diary of a Mad Black Woman was smart and successful, but you all know how that story goes. Number 2. Maxine not only took her man, but married him and started a family with him. Now, if I'm not mistaken, then they were teenagers at the time when this happened. And yes, Terry had initially attracted Kenny, but Maxine, on the other hand, fed Kenny's soul and made him want to give her more than just your standard pickle tickle. Terry always had a problem keeping men happy, while Maxine did what was necessary to make a man want to marry her. So Maxine really didn't steal Kenny, and if she did, she didn't have to work hard to do it. Kenny got a whiff of Terry's controlling nature and already had one foot out the door in their situationship. Number 3. The family not only consistently borrows money from Terry, but it's expected. And to that I would have to say, whose fault is that? At any point, Terry could have said no, or put conditions on how she loaned her money out, but she never did. Terry willingly gave her money away because she enjoyed having something to hold over her family members' heads. Terry always felt that she was better than her family members in every way, and by spending her money on them, it empowered her to treat them any kind of way, and it fed into her desire to be evil. Number 4. Terry did the right thing by calling up her cousin to beat up Lim. Now this is up for debate, because a good family member would have done anything to protect their loved one. But Terry, who was a successful lawyer, essentially put a hit out on her brother-in-law. And if we're going to be technical about this, then Terry should have been arrested for being involved in this mess, which would have likely had a negative impact on her job as well as the family dynamic. Number 5. Terry didn't support Miles' dream, but he took some of her money to fund it without asking. Well, they say in a marriage, two become one, and what's mine is yours and yours is mine, right? After all, Miles was a successful lawyer, just like Terry, so he wasn't just some bum looking to use Terry. Miles was a great husband who supported Terry's dreams from the start, but when it came time for her to support him, she belittled him and treated him like her son. Miles felt emasculated, and he borrowed the money as compensation for years of emotional abuse. Brother Miles just needed to feel whole again, and so he did. Number 6. The family dumped Faith on Terry because they didn't want the burden or risk of getting scammed. Terry is a grown woman, and at no time did anyone make her take Faith in. Terry could have said no, or she could have put Faith up in a Motel 6 for a few days. I bet if Miles asked Terry for a threesome with Faith, she would have said no to that request. And that's because the uncomfortable truth in all this is that Terry helped others because she needed to hold something over their heads for whenever they tried to check her for her attitude. Terry was a control freak, plain and simple. Number 7. Faith smashed Miles in Terry's house. I want to point out that Faith smashed Miles in the studio and not in Terry's bed. So Faith and Miles get a B+ on cheating respectfully. And I guess they probably would have gotten an A if Miles and Faith had hooked up outside the house. But the whole reason as to why Faith was able to get Miles was the same reason Kenny stepped out on Terry for Maxine. And that's because both Kenny and Miles felt undervalued and underappreciated when they were with Terry. And as a result, they felt the need to take drastic measures in order to find their own happiness. So while I agree that Miles sleeping with Faith in the house was a bad look, I don't think Terry deserves an apology because Miles only got in a good 13 pumps before coming to his senses. And in my opinion, it shouldn't be considered a full-on cheating event unless one of the involved parties gets the climax. Number 8. Terry was going to sell Big Momma's house, but the family blocked it. I will say that Big Momma wanted Bird and Lim to stay in the house, and Big Momma also wanted Terry to work with the family in a productive way in order to solve issues like this. Here's what I don't get about Terry. As smart and successful as she is, she never once thought about setting clear boundaries for how she administered her resources to her family members. Then she planned to sell the house instead of following Big Momma's wishes, which was quite selfish on her part, but it falls in line with why Terry was never truly happy in the movie. Number 9. Terry got Lim out of jail. So folks, Terry committed a crime in setting a hit out on her brother-in-law. This hit not only injured her brother-in-law, but it landed him back in jail, and one could argue that the hit that Terry put out on Lim was an overreaction given that Lim never physically assaulted Bird. If Terry would have never gotten involved, none of this would have ever happened. Number 10. At the end of the movie, they find a lump sum of money that Big Momma stashed away, and the indication was that Big Momma was using Terry for her money. Now, I have to ask myself, how many of Terry's diapers did Big Momma change when she was growing up? How many times did Big Momma stay home with Terry when she was sick? How many times did Big Momma cook for Terry and spend money on Terry while having little to no money to spend on herself? Now, I don't know Big Momma personally, but I know that she had a big heart and she tried to instill in her children the value of giving to others out of the kindness of your own heart. With that being said, I'm pretty certain that if Big Momma charged Terry for all the time she provided a service or loaned Terry some money, then Terry's contributions to the family would seem pretty minuscule. But it wasn't like Big Momma had bills in Terry's name or was shady with money. Big Momma had a savings in the event that something happened to her and the family would be taken care of. That's what sacrifice is all about, but Terry missed that lesson. At the end of the day, one could argue that Terry was a terrorist. Many of her problems were brought on by her own actions, and her failure to accept accountability for the part that she played in her own problems is what led to her character hitting rock bottom and having to do some soul searching. But that is just my opinion, and I would like to hear from all of you on this. Do you think Terry deserves an apology for any of these things, or should she just kick rocks altogether? Leave your comments below in the comment section, and I'll be sure to reply to each and every comment. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.